Next understanding with Andy is the forehead. Now with the true Jotnar, the pale, almost white blonde hair starts right at the top here, up at this point, and goes down. True Jotnar bloodlines, or the Ural giant bloodlines, don't exist anymore. They're all hybridized with everyone else. But the pattern and the features still remain. As such, when they're hybridized with other bloodlines who have smaller or lower level skulls, you end up with a bloke who goes from Ural Mountains and then travels all over the world, combining into, as you can see. Now what happens here is anyone who has the Jotnar bloodline with a lower skull gets male pattern baldness, as the hair always runs to the highest point on the head, no matter what. This process will never be changed throughout our entire collective history of humanity. Understanding this, the next section is, you see, Stephen Williams, known today as Stone Cold Steve Austin. But back here, as you can see, pale blonde hair, slight wave, and it receded to the very top of his head. When it finally receded to the very top of his head, he went stuff it, shaved it off, grew the mo, grew the goatee, became the tough SOB we know as Stone Cold Steve Austin today. Would he have done it if he didn't have Jotnar pattern baldness, or Jotnar pattern baldness? Possibly not, because he'd probably still have the blonde hair, still be part of the Hollywood blondes or whatever they were, but he'd probably still be like that and not be who we are today. So you can thank the Jotun for doing that. Now let's check in on Rob Reed. And as you can see again, same thing again. The hair always goes to its highest point and stops and stays there. This is the thing with Jotnar pattern. Every single time, because this head's supposed to go up and it goes down. Now to see this in truest form, we look at someone who used to have quite straight blonde hair, and then it changed, his features changed, his genetics changed, and as such, meet Rob Halford. This is what happened. Look how the head is trying to be complete cone head shape. His head's changed again nowadays, he looks different. But as you can see here, this is exactly what happened. And if you go back to Andy, you realize all the way back to the beginning, and as you can see, it is the same top of the head skull type. Then from there, last but not least, after we looked at Rob and his hairline, we go across to Tender McCrory, UFC fighter. As you can see, the male pattern is taken over here, it has removed the hair, and it is now on the highest point of the head. Johnny Lee Miller, from Trainspotting, Elementary, etc. Same thing, all the way up. The only difference is this little bit here. Now this little bit here is from the Dark Elves. If he didn't have it, then he would have full male pattern all the way back to here. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as you can see here, he didn't have it. His dad does. Rocky Johnson's got a blade point to there and there. It's why he's kept his hair till today. But Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, his Jotnar went straight to the top of his head and stayed there. Never receded to the very back because of his different bloodlines, but that's why The Rock shaves today. Every single bloodline of male Jotnar will get this pattern if they have the features that don't hold the hair to the front or the squaring at the front from the other bloodlines. These are what archetypes are. It's pretty obvious once you look at it. You start seeing and realizing that all these people, all the ones I show, male and female, they all go back to the bloodline that created Andy, the original archetype breed, the Ural giants of the Ural Mountains. Now, in the story of Andy, the Andover skull of Massachusetts, USA, we're looking at the females. Now, as you can see with Andy's skull, goes all the way up in arc form. With the males, you get the male pattern baldness that runs up to the top of the head. But people don't seem to realize this exact feature also goes for females too. So, let's us. First and foremost, Andy from the Ural Mountains, bloodline went all over the world. Combined into females like WWE wrestler Peyton Royce. As you can see, the hairline is at the very, very top of the head. The skull juts out because it's now a much lower skull instead of going right up here and then right back down. You see that very distinctly. You go from Peyton Royce to actor Nicole Santora. And as you can see, same exact thing again. Going down, arcs over, hairline at the highest point. From there, we go to Nia Jax, WWE wrestler and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's cousin. And as you can see, she's got the same hairline as he does. Arcs over, goes to the very highest point of the head, because all Jotnar hairlines always go to the very top of the head no matter what. Next, interesting type of skull, complete combination. As you can see, still with the Jotnar, putting on the double skull as it goes up the top, the hairline right at the top. So even though the features underneath are all equatorial, the head all the way up to the very top, this is where the ancient Ural giant bloodline still comes in, after all these thousands upon thousands of generations. Then we go to Nigeria. Nigerians, as you can see. Many tribes in Africa have this exact feature. Why? Because the Jotnar, Thursar, Jotun, Ural giants, whatever you want to call them, they went to Africa a very long time ago. And we'll deal with this later. I'll expose every single part of it. But as you can see, and same as with the child. Look at the head. Originally this head would have been here, going all the way up into a point, and all the way back down. But because it's now hybridized with a skull that is much lower, the head now goes back. You see this very distinctly in Egyptian people. Because Egyptian people of the original Egyptian lines are all Jotnar hybrids. Then we've got the understanding of what has been taught for a while of the so-called head binding. Yes, it is true that there are some people and some tribes that did do head binding because of the fact of, one, they worship the ancient Jotnar as gods, and two, because they actually hybridize into it themselves. When they started losing this, and they do it in Africa, they do it in Central America, they do it in South America, and other places around the world. Every place where the Jotnar ended up. Now, they used to say that this Hunnic woman, this reconstruction of Hunnic woman, it was because her head was bound. But as you can see, this is her descendant in bloodline. And as you can see, there is no head binding, there is no combination, there is no manipulation. The skull is exactly how it is. It's there, and it's there. This is the real understanding of Jotnar's story, of Andy's story. And Andy continues with his story in the next thrilling episode.